use it or lose it. So if you're not actually applying the information, testing it out in the marketplace, it's not doing anything for you. And
Welcome to the Art of Kaizen for Entrepreneurs, growing 1% everyday podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Art of Kaizen. Today we're going to discuss how people like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson started a liquor brand and saw instant success, or how people like Mr. Beast released a candy and sells millions at the launch of the product. Well, how do these companies find this instant success? It's through their personal brand. And today we are going to be talking with Kyle Loftus, who has been walking us through how he is developing this personal brand for businesses just like yours and how this could be the hidden key to skyrocket your business. Kyle, thank you so much for joining us.
yeah, man, thanks for having me on, Kyle. I'm stoked to chat today and hopefully provide some great strategy for everyone on how they can kind of elevate their own brand or help their clients elevate theirs.
I love
Fired up
that.
for the chat.
Love that, man. And it's such a relative concept today in the market. A lot of people like Gary Vee and other individuals that are very vocal are talking about this personal brand and how in today's society, it's the first time ever where each individual business owner or individual could become more of a movie star than ever before and develop that personal brand to create fans that brings it over to the overall value of the business and how it brings customer there. So before we dive into that personal brand and what it really means, can we get a little background and understanding of you, Kyle, kind of where your thought process come from building this business and just an overview of how this company came to be?
So, quick elevator pitch story, I guess, if you will. So graduated Ohio University 2016 with a degree in screenwriting and producing. Immediately after that, I took a job with the Orlando Magic as a videographer and editor. Quickly learned within about 7, 8 months that was not for me. Great opportunity and everything. Learned a lot, especially when it comes to communicating, leveraging business opportunities and partnerships. But it was a corporate setting. I'm much more of a free spirit, so I wanted to start my own business. And 2017 and on, been doing that ever since. And now relating it back to kind of personal brands and everything. How I was able to kind of really scale up to a six-figure business within the first 7 months of starting that out was really building out and leveraging a personal brand. And I found that that's been something extremely powerful and helpful for my clients, and simply putting a lot more time and effort into really personifying the brand, whether they want to have a personal brand or we want to just personify the business brand itself, but breathing more life into it and allowing people to really connect, resonate, build rapport that essentially gets people to trust you, like you, and know you. Therefore, if you can get all three of those marks ticked, you got a really good chance of nailing that business down. And so I think building out a personal brand is one of the best ways to do it. So yeah, man, stoked to chat more about personal branding.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head. I mean, too much do we see now an instant call to action ad from a business that we've never seen before, or the first asset that we ever engage with the business is a promotional piece where there's little empathy being developed whatsoever. So your approach in the personal brand and diving into the story of why it was actually created, why that person lives that life and develops that business, and how that actually connects and resonates with the local market to find the synergy between them is, I think, that advertising and digital promotion going forward. So you're ahead of the ball, Kyle. I absolutely love that. My question to you is that, obviously you're in a space where you're developing content, you're in a corporate world, so you saw what everybody else was doing, and then you broke off and did it by yourself. When you started to do this by yourself, did you start off the normal way of, hey, I'm going to make really engaging and flashy videos or things that are really going to pop on TikTok and Snapchat because that's what the relevant assets are today? Or did you take a different approach because of a hole that you saw in the market of the lack of brand story and empathy? I'm curious where the angle around brand story started developing for you once you got on your own feet and developed your own business.
So luckily for me, it worked out to my benefit, but really I would argue it probably stemmed from a bad place to start. And what I mean by that, or to elaborate, is, one of my end goals or dreams really is, I want to direct feature films. I want to make documentaries. And so I was always taught early on that, you gotta go out and create the opportunities. You can't just sit around and wait for them to happen. And so if I want to create an opportunity where I can direct feature films or documentaries, well, I need to prove to people that I can make them. Essentially, like, I need to create case studies, right? Like, I need to make feature films. I need to make documentaries or things that can give someone an idea that, like, hey, this guy is capable of doing this. And so the best way for me to do that again was to start creating these projects. And so that's really how I started pitching and positioning these more branded stories, branded films, if you will, was in part this passion to lead me towards my end goal. But I quickly began to really understand, through running a business, understanding that I need to actually generate results for my clients, that these things were actually moving the needle further. And so often people are caught up in just um, leaning into the trends, right? Kind of riding the wave, having flashy transitions. And I quickly found when I was just taking a bit more time to really ask my clients questions and understand what's the real problem that they're facing, and I found that one of the best ways to overall solve a lot of these problems people were facing was by further developing the brand story, as well as sharing what is their mission, what separates them, what's unique, what are their unique selling points, but not just putting it in a direct call to action video. And so I really kind of started to study and treat my relationships with brands, kind of like going to a doctor's office, if you will, right? And so what I mean by that is you don't just go to the doctor and say, "Hey, doc, my stomach hurts. I need X, Y, and Z. I already looked it up on WebMD," right? Like you go to the doctor and they ask questions, they diagnose, and then they prescribe a solution. And so that's how I started to really approach every single client. And what I found, again, the major area where clients were missing out with their content strategy is they didn't have any story behind their brand. So, for example, if it was Dave's Plumbing and Sam's Plumbing, there was nothing differentiating them except for the name. Right. And so it was getting clients to really understand that, like, what's really going to separate you is your story, your voice, your personality. And it's okay if we push some people away by further projecting that voice, but that's how we're going to actually attract the right clients for you, is by not being afraid of that, personifying, building out that brand, and really just being very loud and proud of who you are. And so for myself, I've got a sailor's mouth. I'll keep it clean for the podcast, but I cuss, it's part of who I am. And so I'm not scared to put that out there, because I know the more I'm authentic, the more I'm genuine and organic about who I am, the easier I'm going to pre-qualify and eliminate people that wouldn't be a great fit for me. And the more I'm going to attract people that really resonate with my personality, with my lifestyle, and with the kind of work that I produce.
Business owners and entrepreneurs listening to this right now, that is one of the most powerful things you can do across the board, not just for the presentation of your brand and your imagery when you get out there, but a true solidification of who you are. And Kyle, you're hitting the nail on the head of understanding how to do that in the 21st century, which is through video, through imagery, through leveraging these social platforms and doing it in the right way. But if you're a business owner and what you just heard Kyle said about having polling aspects concerns you or scares you, you're not thinking about it correctly. You got to pivot your mind to understand that to be successful in this world, you're going to make some people happy and you're going to piss some people off. It's just what's going to happen, right? And the more times that we try to be general and make everybody happy, the harder it is to have the right customer, the harder it is to get the average ticket order we're looking for, the harder it is to retain the customer over time. You find the right people and hone into those people. They resonate with you. You resonate with them. It becomes a beautiful business structure. So Kyle, let's talk about that a little bit. Who do you guys really resonate with? Who is the ideal client for you? Obviously, you're doing something that I think is needed across the board for everybody, from e-commerce to restaurants to home improvement. But in the time that you've had the company, who have you felt has been able to walk through your door and you are a perfect fit for them and they line up to make sure that you can successfully create these assets for them?
Yeah, I would say for us, it's really health and wellness and like fitness-based brands, maybe more specifically e-commerce brands. There's a lot of reasons. I think on a personal note, my background before I got into video production, I was exploring the idea of actually becoming a strength and conditioning coach myself. So I have a huge passion for health, wellness, fitness. I currently do jujitsu. I've been doing it for the past 3 years. And so it's just a huge passion area of mine. And so I think not just having a passion for it, which I think is very, very important, but really being able to understand the clients, talk the talk as well as walk the walk. So whether it's dealing with talent on set, being able to actually perform exercises or various different things I want to see them do, or just being able to really talk and understand why a health brand might need to position themselves a certain way or why a script might need to read a certain way. It just allows me to be way, way more effective and efficient. And then I think additionally, and I guess maybe this is less on like the branding standpoint, but just understanding who can we best serve, who can we provide the most value for, and how they can provide the most value for us. So some of the things I'm always looking for potential clients or realms, right? Is I want to make sure, one, do they have purchasing power? Two, do they have a need for content? Three, do they have a consistent need for content? Four, are they in a growing industry or a shrinking or a stagnant industry? And so when I look at health and wellness brands, fitness brands, and especially in the e-commerce space, they're checking all those boxes in the right way, right? So they're brands that need consistent content. They're consistently investing in content. They're brands with purchasing power because they have money that they're consistently bringing in from their online sales, but then they need to consistently reinvest to generate higher sales, continue to scale and grow the company. As well as, again, it's a growing industry. It's not a shrinking or stagnant industry. So, for example, music videos. I used to shoot music videos like 4 or 5 years ago. I stopped filming those because it's not a growing industry. It's a shrinking industry. Independent artists, very, very limited with their budget. They have no purchasing power. And they don't have a consistent need for it. You know, someone might put out a music video once a month or once every 3 months, but it's not every single week that they need a new music video, right? And again, they don't have the consistent capital to invest consistently in that kind of content. And so those are kind of the main reasons that I particularly focus on health and wellness brands and again, kind of like fitness companies as well.
I love that. And know you're fit, know where you can help, and there to support. And again, if anybody's listening to this and you're in the fitness space, you're in the e-commerce space, and you're looking for someone that can develop assets for you that can push you past the competition, because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about any fancy transitions or new music or viral trending hooks. We're talking about empathetic, emotional, creative pieces that highlight your brand, resonate with the customer, and lead to revenue in the back end of your business. That's what stories like this sell. Pitches that we normally see back in the day, everyone is used to. And I think, Kyle, that's why you're finding some amazing immediate success with your business, because not only are you developing an asset that, let's be very clear, guys, it's not easy to do. He just said that he has to come through it like a doctor, like someone with a PhD, to ask you questions and your problems, where you sit, your criteria, and then enact a game plan that's going to bring emotion out of customers. Most men that were listening to this, it's hard to bring emotion out of our wife sometimes, and he's doing it through videos with millions of people. So, Kyle, definitely ahead of the ball. I love where this is going. But since you built the company, what is the biggest failure or challenge that you've had since you to evolve and progress your business, and kind of highlight that for us? What are some difficulties you've had since you've been starting to do this?
I think the biggest difficulty I've faced overall has probably just been time slash prioritization. And I guess more specifically, to give context, relating that to trying to continually scale the business. So obviously, as I continue to scale, I bring on new team members. I try and implement new systems or new strategies. All of those things bring about more problems. Just like Biggie Small said, he wasn't lying. More money, more problems. The bigger you scale your business, the more problems. My last business coach, he said, and this really, really resonated and stuck with me. As an entrepreneur and as a business owner, as you scale up higher and higher, your job becomes more and more of just putting out fires. And that really resonates with me now. A lot of times I'm just trying to refine our systems and our processes. I'm trying to find solutions of how we can be more efficient, how we can communicate clearer to our clients, how we can deliver faster results as well as better results. And so that's been the hardest part for me, is really scaling the business and scaling our profitability, as well as maintaining or providing myself more time, having more time to either allocate towards, personal passion projects, hobbies, or just continuing to grow the business. So for me, it's just really figuring out, how can I prioritize my time? What is the most important tasks that need to get done that are actually going to move the business forward? How do I get myself out of working in the business so I can work on the business so we can scale it? But again, scale it in a way where we're scaling not just the business, but our profitability, and just being transparent. That's been one of my biggest challenges, is continually, I'm scaling the business every single year. However, sometimes it's a struggle where I'm not necessarily scaling the profitability. And so scaling the business is great, but if we're not necessarily growing in profitability, you also need to take a step back and say, like, hey, is this going the direction do I want to? Do I really want to keep growing it this way and having to allocate the same amount of time, if not more time? Or how can I adapt this? What's maybe a new business model or a structure or a new specific strategy that we can apply that might allocate or allow me to have more time, but still kind of provide us the same level of revenue and profitability. So that's been my biggest challenge to date for sure.
Kyle, the transparency there is incredible. And every business owner listening to this feels the same pressure and the same challenges with them. It's one of the hardest things to really develop. For all the business owners out there listening, I do highly recommend the book Work Clean, to find your mise en place, to understand your timing, your placement, your allocation, and your structure ahead of time. That's something that's really helped me. And then hire an operations expert. I don't know about you, Kyle, but I'm the big picture guy. I, in the sense of you need the attractive character and the operator. The attractive character can start a business and run it very, very powerfully. You can get to 6, even 7 figures. But without the operator, it is very, very difficult to be consistent and to keep your hair. Thank you for the transparencies. I think everybody listening to this feels the same pain. They have the same difficulties in their growth, and it's hard to get to. But I'm confident listening to you talk so far. It is just a matter of the reason why only 1% of business owners truly are successful after about 7.5 years. And it's from their operations, it's from their structure. And it seems like you're on an awesome war path to not only deliver the service that you want to get out there, but also do in a way that's scalable, profitable, and allows you to continue to grow the company. Where do you think your industry, I believe you, Kyle, you are a step ahead of the industry today. There's 10 million content creators out there. There's 2 million video editors. It seems like every single 18-year-old that knows how to use CapCut can now be a video editor for somebody. But you're ahead of the curve by leading with the storytelling, understanding the hero story, the brand story, the empathetic emotions that create sales after that. But where do you see the industry going in, say, about 5 years, 5 to 10 years? Do you feel like your business is going to have to change to work in the AR and VR world? Do you believe that something that you've developed so far is so solidified in psychology that it'll continue to progress the way it is? Or do you see massive changes happening here in your industry in the next 5 years?
Yes and no. So I do see massive changes coming. I do see us needing to adapt and adjust, but I also see us not needing to fully adapt and adjust. And so to elaborate on that further, I guess first and foremost, if you're not growing, you're dying. And so the industry is constantly shifting. Every industry is constantly shifting, adapting, growing, refining itself, right? People are constantly finding, creating new apps, new systems, new processes, new automations, especially with AI. And as that relates to video production, it's eliminating a lot of jobs, simplifying a lot of tasks. I use ChatGPT like all the time now. I don't know how I used it before for brainstorming. And so if you're not adapting with the industry, now this doesn't mean that like you just ride every single wave, right? So for example, everyone's doing short form reels and using these whoosh transition effects. Like I need to use those now. That's not what I'm saying. But if the industry is adapting and predominantly everyone's putting out short form content, okay, so like we need to adapt with that. But how do we still stick to what we know is true and what we know works for clients? So how do we implement storytelling? How do we develop and personify a brand, but in a way that aligns with what the industry is really eating up right now, if you will, specifically talking about social media content strategy, right? And so I think you need to be open to the idea of adapting and adjusting your strategies, of working in tandem with where the industry is going. But I also firmly believe that storytelling is king, right? Before we had books, I mean, before we could carve into stone, how do we translate information? It was stories. Like we're obsessed with stories as humans. It's part of our nature. And so I think if you can always just really hone in on that and remind yourself that story is king, then you can still generate and create great results for your clients. But of course, we're going to definitely be adapting and adjusting, flowing with the industry. I mean, I've already really done that. Probably year ago, 2 years ago, we had much larger crew sizes. We're using much larger cameras, using cinema lenses, which for anyone who isn't as in my world, essentially just by using a specific camera and lens, I need to require 2 or 3 more people on set. Whereas now we've simplified and we're using smaller camera bodies, autofocus lenses. So now I don't need an additional 2 to 3 people on set. We're able to be just as efficient, more efficient, just as effective with a smaller crew size. So now I'm able to deliver the same results, but I'm also now able to see more profit. And so I think it's just going to continue to adapt and adjust like that. Again, with AI and just things becoming easier, more automated and systemized, there's less of a need for as much for lack of a better term, manual labor or just people involved. But I think people will always be involved. I think people will always be vastly more important or desired than AI. So AI videos are going to become more and more popular, but I genuinely believe that we as humans are going to still have that weird like disconnect feeling. There's going to be a desire to see real people talking about real stories. And so I think that'll always be there, but how we deliver it, right? What's the medium that we're using? What does that look like? I think that's going to always continue to kind of adapt and evolve, and it's important that we do so as well. But story will always be king for sure.
First thing you said is, as you're going through it, I think of Bruce Lee like water, right? Like the water's never going to change. The story's always going to be there. We always have to make sure that we're finding an emotional tie back with the customer. We have resonation, and there's ways that it actually connects on their screen. But it's still going to be story, but it's going to malleable and it's going to change depending on the platform. A great example you have, as you said today, 15-second reels with high transitions every 2 to 3 seconds is what everyone's going for. Well, the problem is that as soon as you do that to a C where it's every single person's doing the same thing, and are you really differentiating your brand, your business in the market? And it's no, it's not, right? And if anybody, entrepreneurs and business owners, listen to this right now. If you're listening to Kyle and you're saying, man, we don't really need a brand story, I recommend to either educate yourself by going after the largest brands in the world, such as Nike, right? Nike very rarely ever post their products whatsoever. Storytelling 24/7. And if you need the literature to read it, Story Selling is an incredible book that breaks down how every single high-end movie you have ever seen has the same storyboard. Every single one, different characters, different names, different attributes, but it is the same story across the board. The reason we love it is because we are psychologically driven to love the hero story. And that's kind of what Kyle's saying here. Each business has its own story that it's the market. If you not have that, you're not resonating with all the effort, the money, and the challenges that you've gone through as a business owner. You're not getting that message out to the market. You're just trying to sell, 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 sell. And it puts you in a red ocean of people that are trying to do the same. So,
Yeah.
listen, super educated. I mean, you're looking at this in an angle of psychology as well as implementation that I think is super, super powerful. This is my favorite question, the last question on my list, and then we'll get into one bonus question. But one of my favorite questions is, how do you embody Kaizen? So what are you doing, Kyle, to educate yourself on a regular basis to make sure you're staying on top of not just the flashy trends, but how the market is moving and how to stay on top of it?
So with that, and I guess just like my overall philosophy and I guess how my life kind of relates to Kaizen. So for me, I'm a big believer in, kind of really just doing the boring stuff, if you will, being willing to do the things, the mundane things, the consistent things that you need to do to really generate the real results day in and day out. So I'm a huge believer in habits. I'm a big, big believer in having a routine and rituals and time blocking. So building out specific times each and every day for specific things that are actually going to move the needle forward, be that the business, be that you and your health, you on your journey spiritually, etc. Now, how it relates specifically to branding and how I'm investing time and effort to continue to grow and scale there. For me, I'm a big fan of ebooks, podcasts. And then I think one of the most helpful things for me in my career and journey has been business coaches. So trying to find people that I align with that are either a step or a couple steps ahead of me. That's been super, super helpful, just eliminating a lot of the mistakes and wasted time, the uncertainty with certain decision making. And then additionally, just having to make a big investment, scaring yourself in that way and kind of lighting a fire underneath your butt, if you will, of like, hey, all right, I made this investment. Now I need to take action, and having someone there to kind of hold you accountable. I think that's a very, very powerful element just in and of itself. But again, if you can find someone that has the life that you want, is making the income you want, is doing the things that you want to be doing, and you can have an opportunity to learn from them and grow from them. I would definitely capitalize on that. And again, I think if you're doing that, as well as taking time to educate yourself consistently, so following people like Alex Hormozy and Grant Cardone, Russell Brunson, James Clear, some of these people that are like really, really preaching a lot of powerful things on psychology, on sales, on branding, on really prioritizing your time and mastering that. think if you're just constantly educating yourself with ebooks and podcasts, I think that's all great as well. However, with all that being said, I would argue the most important thing is application. And so I think one of the biggest issues we see nowadays with social media and YouTube University and all this stuff is people get, I don't know if you ever heard the phrase mental masturbation, right? It's like people just get on and they just watch video after video after video. And it's like you get these dopamine hits. You feel like, oh, like I'm changing, I'm growing, I'm learning. But it's if you don't actually apply the information that you learned to see if it actually works or it resonates with you or it'll work in your process, you're not use it or lose it, right? So if you're not actually applying the information, testing it out in the marketplace, it's not doing anything for you. And so I think that's the biggest thing is don't try and like overload yourself with information. Focus on one thing at a time, right? So don't try and read 6 ebooks at once. Read one ebook at once. Take notes after you finish a chapter. Apply the information. Don't just keep reading, going on and on and on. Apply the information. See what actually works, what resonates, and then implement that into your systems, into your business model. Implement that strategy for your own personal brand, right? And then continue to kind of elevate and chip away and refine so you have your beautiful sculpture of David, if you will, right? But you got to actually apply the information in order to actually see the results. You can't just keep like absorbing information. You got to actually apply it.
Oh, so much to unpack there. Kyle, incredible breakdown of your personal Kaizen from one, being a student of life and constantly absorbing and getting information, to two, the mentorship, which is something that is, I think, extraordinarily lackluster in today's outreach for information. Having confidence, or what I'd call prudence, the ability to understand what the right decision is only going to come from those that have been burnt before and have actually done it successful. You can read as much as you want, but you will always second guess yourself with just absorbed knowledge compared to a one-on-one mentor. So incredible. And then the last point that you hit, such a big thing. I call it paralysis by paralysis.
Yeah.
Might be what I use next. I love that. Right. So, but the core factor of learning is executing everything that we do. So it's the same thing as a communication. It's 2 parts listening, 1 part speaking. It should be the same thing for knowledge. It should be 1 part learning, 2 executing, because you're going to fail the first time and then you're going to have to fix it for the second, right? So
Yep.
execution is such a huge thing. And, I always go back to our educational system that we grow up with, is that we're prone not to fail or move away from failure as much as possible, where in the real world, us entrepreneurs know it. Failure is part of life. It is a normal thing that we are going to do every day. And if you're not failing, you're not trying, right? If you're doing the same thing over and over, somebody's going to beat you because they are constantly attempting new things that they'll find success with and then surpass you because of those things. So everything there, Kyle, incredible. I got one last bonus question for you. Have you ever heard of the book Atlas Shrugs?
Atlas Shrugs. That sounds really familiar. And I feel like I just watched a movie recently that referenced that, but I haven't read it, to be honest. So
It's massive. I mean, if you try to read it, it's one of the biggest books I've ever tried to absorb. I didn't get all the way through it, but the concept, for all the listeners out there, the concept is what's incredible here. So Atlas Shrugs breaks down that the business owners that run the world just shrug off the world and say, we're done. We're not doing this anymore. We're not going to run our companies. We're going to take our money. We're going to leave. That's it. So that happened today, Kyle, and all of us business owners just shrugged off our businesses and closed them today. What would be the first business that you start tomorrow?
Man, what will be the first business I start tomorrow?
Infrastructure's still there. There's still restaurants. There's still home. There's nobody running it. You have an opportunity to do whatever you want in this world. What would you do?
Man, honestly, I think I'd probably do exactly what I'm doing now. I would probably just put way more of a heavy emphasis on overall brand development. So be that on the ideation as well as the execution side of actually developing a brand and what that looks like. So what is the brand tone? What is the voice? What is the messaging style? What's the font colors? How do they present themselves? What kind of content is that? What does the website look like? How do they want people to feel when they come into the physical location or they visit the online address, etc. Right now, again, we focus more, yes, storytelling, but obviously more specifically as it relates to video and photo content. For me, I'm just super passionate about branding and storytelling to the core. And so I think it would be very cool to either build into my business that I have kind of now, or just make an entirely new business that's really just more focused on a consultation standpoint. And so again, for me, I believe the variety is the spice of life. And so selfishly, I don't know if I'd want to just work with one company and be like the head of branding there. I'd love to be able to work with so many people. And again, I think the more people I can work with and help, the more I can help and impact the world in a positive way. And so I think that's where I would go if that happened, as I would develop the world's best brand consultation company.
Kyle, I love this. For the listeners out there, that's the answer that you want for someone that you want to hire to do your content. He wouldn't be anywhere else in the world besides where he is today because he loves what he does. He emphasizes it every single way. And that means he's going to put time, effort, and focus into your business. Because I know the way that you're talking, Kyle, I'm in the same boat. If I bring on a client and in any way, shape, or form it fails or doesn't perform the way I want to, I feel it in the bottom of my soul. And I can tell by the way you're talking, you do the same exact thing. So let's answer the people's question. How do people find they want to connect with you? They want to develop some assets. They want to make sure their brands resonate in the market. Kyle Loftus, how do they connect with you? Where's the best place for them to find you?
Yeah, Kyle Loftus. You just Google it, YouTube it. I should be the first guy that comes up. Pretty much all my handles are Kyle Loftus Studios. Website, KyleLoftusStudios.com. Email hello@KyleLoftusStudios. Shoot me a message whether you guys need some help with branding, you got questions, concerns. Whether you're looking to work and partner or just, looking for some advice. Again, I love nerding out on this stuff and I love sharing a virtual coffee, having a good conversation. Today, I'm just drinking Celsius, a little change up in the routine, but yeah, man, would love to talk to anyone who needs help with branding or again, just has some general questions on next steps they might need to take or would be best next steps for them to take, be that with their content strategy or just bringing their brand to life, etc. So, yeah, man, appreciate you having me on the podcast here. It's been a fun chat.
No problem. And for everybody, that website's going to be found in the description underneath. Make sure you check it out. Give them a like and a follow on social media. And if you finish this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the page. Kyle, thank you so much for your time. All the listeners, thank you for listening, and we'll see you on the next.